Jeff Franks coming again with Foundation of Civilization, Our Changing World. It is 15th of November. It's that time of week again. Where I bring to you the biggest news stories of the world. At least the news stories that I find that are most important. Now, I started issuing a warning for people. This is to try to inform people of what's going on. If you don't like what I have to say, well, there's lots of other places to go look and to, feed your egos or feed your paranoias or whatever it is that you want. If you like what you hear, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate the support. And if you don't like what you hear, you can make some comments down below too. That's all right. But I'm trying to bring you the most important things and give you the best analysis that I can. I'm trying not to be overly critical of people or under critical of people. I know that there's a lot of bias out there. I don't want that. I want to see what's happening, why, and understand why it's happening. And sometimes that means that I analyze things on a very different view, or very different way than other people. Before I get to the news, I want to let you guys know. I've been letting everybody know that I have an audiobook out, and I want to let you guys know that not only do I have the audiobook out, but there are several other books that I've written, and they are available on Amazon. I will leave a link in the description below. Of course, one of those books is A Twisted Trade that I have turned into an audiobook, and love for you to listen to it, and of course, like I said, I will leave a link for you. This week I've decided that I'm going to include something. I am going to use a sitemap, and we're going to see how it goes. In between the graphics that I have downloaded, I'm going to bring it back up. And I know if you're on a small device, it's going to be a little difficult to read, but hopefully it'll give you a little better idea, give you a map of the world, and then so that you can see what's going on and give you a little better perspective. The world runs on energy, so let's start there. And that's where, of course, where I usually start. This week, West Texas Intermediate crude ended the week at $60.09. The Brent ended the week at $64.39. OPEC ended the week at $63.42, which is interesting because most of the time OPEC is a little bit more expensive than Brent, or especially the West Texas. Gold is a measure of how well things are going between finances between banks and how much people really trust the fiat currency that we use. It continues to hold above $4,000, which is a bad sign for most economies. This week, it ended the week at $4,008.78. Silver, also another measure of how well people trust currency. It held this week above $50.62. Then the Baltic exchange dry goods is a measure of how well people feel about trading. And it's been very high in the past, but recently it's been rather low, and it's been hovering around in the same range of about $1,900 to $2,100. This week it ended the week at $2,125. UK 10-year bond yields, bond yields tell us how much people trust the governments to pay them back. And the 10-year bond yield is usually the barometer that people like to use. And so the U.S. 10-year bond yield ended the week at 4.147%. The UK ended the week at 4.4828%. The Japanese bond yields ended the week at 1.7022%. ISR aircraft flights. Interestingly enough, they were rather light this week. Now, I don't know if that's because they turned off the transponders or because they were busy doing something else and turned off the transponders. But it seems like they have redirected their energies, and which I'll actually address that in just a minute. We may know where they have gone. The last count on the ships that we have underway was 287 ships in the Navy. 97 were deployed, 66 were underway. Those deployed and underway may have changed this week. I didn't have an update on them. The ships, the change in the ships that we've had this week: the George H.W. Bush departed Norfolk, Virginia. The George Washington is underway in the East China Sea. The Gerald R. Ford finally made its way to the Caribbean. The USS Nimitz is in the South China Sea. The USS Theodore Roosevelt returned to San Diego this week. The Iwo Jima, Fort Lauderdale, and San Antonio are part of the carrier group with the Gerald R. Ford down in the Caribbean. And it was noted, when was this? Okay, it left November 4th, made it through Gibraltar. I want to say it was Tuesday, so I believe the 11th, that the carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, made it to the Caribbean, and it has joined the U.S. Southcom. Now, some other events that have happened. Pentagon has sent ground forces to train in Panama's jungle for the first time in decades. That was interesting. The United States blew up 2 more alleged drug boats in the Pacific, killing 6 narco-terrorists. That was earlier this week. And the U.S. Secretary of War announced a new operation, Operation Southern Spear. This he put U.S. Southern Command in charge of it, and he said that U.S. Southern Command is one of the U.S. military's 11 unified combatant commands, which is tasked with contingency planning operations and security operations for 31 countries in Central America and South America and the Caribbean. A couple things I noted in my short read of this announcement. The objective is very broad. Mind you, I was a military planner also. So, I'm got an idea what I'm looking at here. Like I said, the objective is broad. It widens the range of actions the military can take. However, that makes it very hard to know if you're achieving your goals or not. I would like to be able to see what the operational orders state and the plans are, but I don't have access to them, and they're probably classified anyways. Are they? Yeah, they probably are classified. Those of you who are in the know, after this Operation Southern Spear kicked off, the Pentagon pizza tracker was up 1,300%. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Pentagon Pizza Tracker is a measure of how much the local restaurants have increased in business over the weekend. That means that bosses are holding people in the offices at the Pentagon, and they're trying to help keep people happy by bringing pizza in, or whatever other kind of food they might bring in. That has been a consistent indicator of when operations are getting ready to kick off at the Pentagon, or through the Pentagon. In fact, it's rather interesting. I'm not exactly sure how they tracked it, but somehow or another, the Russians were actually able to use this during the Cold War. I say the Russians, the Soviets, way back when. They used it during the Cold War to see when they thought something was up, when they thought something was about to kick off. So as of, the 14th, so as of yesterday, Friday, the pizza indicator is pinging at the moment. Now, in response to the United States operations, Colombia has suspended intelligence sharing with the U.S. over the boat strikes. Us striking what the military and intel agencies are saying are drug boats. But Colombia is not alone. Colombia is a neighbor and friend of Venezuela, so that's kind of expected. But the United Kingdom has also joined Colombia in suspending some intelligence sharing with the United States. And they said they're concerned about the lethal strikes against alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean. And this is because London thinks that the attacks are illegal and they do not want to be implicated in those attacks. Venezuela, in response to all of our activities down there, have prepared massive deployments of forces in case of U.S. attack. They're preparing guerrilla response in case the United States attacks, as that's as the world's largest aircraft carrier arrives. China and Russia have been supplying Venezuela, providing Venezuela with additional support. A number of flights have been noted as flying in. I believe several ships have also arrived in Venezuelan ports recently. So it's this could get rather dicey. The trouble is that Venezuela's military has been neglected quite a bit. Apparently they can still fly their F-16s, which I'm actually kind of surprised about, but all of their best leadership has been fired, fled the country, however, whatever the case may be. So I really don't expect a lot out of Venezuela. It could get rather ugly for them. I will be interested to see how Russia and China responds once operations kick off. It's also been learned that Italian companies, I guess several Italian companies, have been operating in Russia and have funneled 1 billion euros in taxes to support the Kremlin's war. That's likely just a cost of having to do business in Russia. I don't know that there's any way around it aside from them pulling out of Russia. It was noted that the Russian president had a meeting of all of his top officials, except for just one, Lavrov. Now, several people were concerned that maybe he was on the outs with the Russian president. However, I think it's much more likely that the Russian president was concerned and wanted to make sure that there was leadership left in the event that Ukraine, or more correctly NATO through Ukraine, decided to attack the Russian leadership. And so he was left at some location that he would be safe. In Europe has noted that Russia is deploying 150,000 soldiers to Pokrovsk. That is a city that they have been, Russia has relentlessly been attacking recently, and the Russian forces are in the city and they control, I believe, about 80% of it. It's pretty much gone. And that was a key area where the Ukrainians were delivering weapons and coordinating transportation and supplies and troop movement. That has fallen, and that is going to put a huge crimp in Ukraine's ability to conduct operations in the eastern Ukraine. And while all eyes are on Pokrovsk in Russia, the Russian forces are driving forward in Zaporozhye Oblast. It's also been noted that 70% of ammunition used by Russia in the war was made in North Korea. This is according to the Straits Times. Ukrainian, they claim they got Ukrainian analysis. Poland's civil defense classes gun ranges are doing brisk business as tensions with Russia rise. They've noted, Poland recognizes that if Ukraine falls, they're the next ones in the crosshairs. Swedish municipalities are defying their government over voluntary return assistance for immigrants. So Sweden is having a difficult time with many of the people who have immigrated to their country, and they have noted violent clashes with immigrants and with native-born Swedes. And apparently some of the local municipalities do not wish to help the government return some of these immigrants to their home countries. Earlier today, like I said, it's the 15th of November, on Saturday, a bus rolled over a bus stop, killing 3 people. The bus was empty, and and was out of service, but it apparently had not returned to the garage yet. It is unknown any motivation, but it does not look like it was an accident. It looks like it was an intentional attack. In Asia, the Nikkei ended the week at 50,369.67. The SSE index ended the week at 3,991.86. The Hang Seng ended the week at 26,589.39. The BSE Sensex ended the week at 84,630.96. And the Nifty 50 ended the week at 25,915.15. I find it interesting as I listen to all of the rhetoric coming out of China being pointed at the United States and vice versa, United States at China. Everybody keeps acting like what all the pronouncements that are made are can be easily supported. When you see businesses making moves, then you kind of know what direction things are going. Businesses are set up to make money, and if they see a problem arising, they're going to move their things so that they move their support systems so that they can continue to operate. This week, General Motors have directed their part suppliers to move away from China. Now, that may be because of the conflict between the United States and China. I also believe that there is a factor that China is going to be struggling here in the near future, financially struggling. In fact, China, I've learned this week, China has a problem with what they call phantom loans. The government is seeking to expand their economy through loans and ordering the banks to loan money. The banks are feeling the pressure and are issuing short-term loans that are quickly repaid, and the banks many times are paying the interest. Banks are making fake loans to meet the government's loan goals. Meanwhile, other types of loans are actually shrinking, real loans. It's noted that real estate loans are down 20% in the last year. China is... Last week I noted that China was switching out some of their astronauts, and they got them up to the space station. Then the spacecraft that they were supposed to return on was struck by space debris, and so now China is scrambling to rescue the astronauts. That was supposed to return this week. Now, there is a developing a problem between China and Japan. Of course, I say developing row. It seems to be a long-term effort, long-term problem that they've had, animosities, and it's just getting ramped up again. Japan's Prime Minister, stated she just expressed what her country's policy is, and said that if China were to impose blockade around Taiwan, it would create an existential crisis. It could trigger an existential crisis. In response, Chinese diplomats threatened to cut off the Japan's leader's head. And I believe that threat has since been, or the post has since been deleted, but things could get dicey there. Now, earlier this year, Thailand and Cambodia had gone to blows over disputed land. This week, apparently there was a landmine blast, and Thailand has now suspended the truce that was brokered by the United States. We'll see where that goes in the near future. On Monday, I believe it was Monday. No, it was on Sunday. My bad. On Sunday in Delhi, at Red Fort, there was a car explosion that initially killed 8 and injured 20. I believe eventually there are 4 more people that succumbed to their injuries, giving a total of 12 people who died. And in retaliation, this was reported on the 11th, but I believe it was on Tuesday, which that would have been the 11th. Pakistan had a similar explosion in front of a courthouse. There also 12 people were killed. In response, the Pakistani foreign minister stated that they were in a state of war. Pakistan believes that the explosion in their country was a result of Afghan rebels, but the Afghan rebels are probably aligned with India or backed with India, supported somehow or another. In recent years, India has been seeking closer relationships with Afghanistan, I think mostly because of their mutual enemies, not because they support each other ideologically. U.S. Central Command this past week announced that their forces advised, assisted, enabled more than 22 operations against ISIS with partners in Syria over the past months, which diminished the terrorist group's ability to conduct local operations and export violence around the world. The Combined Joint Task Force, which was called Operation Inherent Resolve, conducted the operations in coordination with Syrian partners from October 1st to November 6th, resulting in 5 ISIS members killed and 19 captured. According to reports, Iran is rebuilding its nuclear program deep underground, which I thought that's where they were building it before, but maybe they're going deeper. I'm not exactly sure. Israel has destroyed more than 1,500 buildings in Gaza since the ceasefire, some kind of ceasefire. And on Tuesday, Israeli forces killed 3 people in Gaza as settlers attack in occupied West Bank, the occupied West Bank. Yesterday, on Friday the 14th, Iranian special forces seized an oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. The tanker, the Talara tanker, is sailing under a flag of the Marshall Islands and was traveling from the United Arab Emirates, UAE, to Singapore. Since it's just yesterday, no word on exactly what's going on with it. So, earlier today, again Saturday, 15 November, in Congo, Goma, Congo, Congo and Rwanda-backed rebels, the rebel group M23, signed a framework agreement for a peace deal, hopefully ending the long-standing conflict. They went to war earlier this year. Rwandan forces, or the M23, backed by Rwandan forces, seized a couple of towns in Congo. Now, on the other side of Congo, on the eastern side of Congo, Islamic-backed rebels killed at least 17 people in an attack on a hospital. This is according to authorities, and that also occurred earlier today. Operations began at Guinea's Simandou mine. It's the world's biggest iron ore mining project. And that was an announcement made on Alpha on Tuesday, the 11th. Five Indian citizens were kidnapped in Mali. This is amid Al-Qaeda unrest. Down in the Americas. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, as far as the markets go, obviously. As far as the markets go, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 47,152.53. The S&P 500 ended the week at 6,735.37. And the NASDAQ ended the week at 25,012.90. In Ecuador, days after 31 people were killed in a private prison riot, Ecuador transferred 300 high-risk prisoners to a max security prison. In Mexico, in Cancun, there was a graveyard with 16 bodies found in a secret cemetery near the Mexico's holiday hotspot. Earlier this week, Carlos Manzo, the mayor of Uruapan in Mexico, was assassinated. The assassination was caught on video. He was killed by cartels after pleading with the Mexican president to intervene in the city's cartel violence and heavily criticized her inaction. Mexican officials this week prepared for widespread protest. Part of it is a result of his assassination. Barriers went in place as organizers prepared for potential riots. The average citizen is concerned about cartel violence over Mexico, cartel's influence over Mexico's president. Up in the United States, on November 12th, Apple computers rolled out Digital ID. Now, this system is intended to digitize documents that already exist, so your driver's license, your passport. The Apple Wallet is integrated with TSA, and 12 states are planning on joining this system, so you can take your digital ID and apply it at the locations that accept it. It is not currently associated with any financial data, but it would not take much effort to make that happen. While this system is coming from a private company, it requires cooperation with government entities. The research was also likely funded by government agencies. It is a government ID system. Even if it's not being forced on us and used today, it will be in the near future. I've been trying to capture the video on this because I'd like to do a video, some video analysis of it. But on Monday in Minneapolis, after our friend Omar Fattah did not win the Minneapolis mayor's race, Representative Ilhan Omar went on a rant against other Somali tribes in a speech she gave in the Somali language, only in the Somali language. I discovered that there are 6 Somali tribes in the Minneapolis area, which include, and I apologize if I mispronounce these, but the Darude tribe, the Hawaii tribe, the Isaaq tribe, and the Deer tribes. Those are just some of them. What is that, 4? 4 of the 6 tribes there. She openly called for other clans to be cast out of Minneapolis. However, the election results show that the Fattah's opponent, Frey, was elected by a wide margin, and most of the tribes voted in support of Fattah. And here's the problem. They're bringing the clan attitude with them to the United States. And that's something that a lot of groups had to overcome. A lot of my ancestors, the Scots, the Irish, I'm sure the Italians, they each had to figure out that the country and the purposes behind the country was greater than themselves. Historical clan affiliation and conflicts have led to violence over minor disagreements. We'll have to see if this situation leads to any violence. The U.S. president on Monday had a historic meeting with Syria's interim president, Ahmad al-Sharaa. And this was conducted behind closed doors, which actually I understand why they did it behind closed doors. They probably needed it to be behind closed doors. The U.S. president has taken a leading role in backing al-Sharaa's stated desire to make Syria a friendly country after decades of war, terrorism, and drug trafficking under the ousted regime of Syrian dictator Bashar Assad. Now, mind you, just a few months ago, al-Sharaa was listed as a terrorist with a $10 million bounty on his head. Now, however, he was supported by the international community to fight ISIS. We'll see where this relationship goes. Earlier this week, the U.S. president floated the idea of a 50-year home loan. Most people that commented on the proposal commented in a negative way, noting that it may reduce immediate costs but extends the loan out over a longer period, ultimately costing the borrower more money. The government entities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're the ones who back the real estate loans in the United States. They announced this week that they would stop using standard credit scoring and would use their own risk assessment system to evaluate credit worthiness. I've made some notes about this earlier. Several emails were released this week from internationally known or related to internationally known pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein wrote that the U.S. president spent several hours at his house with a victim of sex trafficking. Now, the victim's name was redacted. However, it's unknown as to exactly what the purpose was. The president's opponents released the information. It's been well known for a long time that the U.S. president knew Jeffrey Epstein, and about 20 years ago, the president kicked him out of his club in South Florida, Mar-a-Lago. These emails suggest that there's more information, but in reality, there is no new information. In fact, the redacted victim was Virginia Giuffre. In her tell-all book, Ms. Giuffre said that she never saw the president doing anything wrong with the young women. Now, if the U.S. president engaged in an inappropriate relationship, it was with other women. The U.S. president, however, is not helping himself by keeping the Jeffrey Epstein's client information secret. There are so many people that were clients of Epstein, but they are not announced in these news releases. I'm afraid that this release and these emails are just another piece of propaganda to stir up the president's opponents, not some grand revelation. Now, I'd be happy for them to release all of it, but all of it, not just pieces at a time. And in an effort to get that information released, it's been noted that there was an effort to keep somebody out of office. And this is 50 days after she won the seat. Representative Adelaida Grijalva, she was able to drop the elect from her title, and she is now the representative from Arizona. She was officially sworn in on Wednesday the 12th. And this is just as lawmakers returned to the Capitol to take up a plan to reopen the government after a record shutdown. The immigration battle continues across the United States. The Department of Homeland Security has noted that they have information that the Latin Kings gang has issued orders targeting federal agents in Chicago. Portland area county declared an emergency over ICE activity as police are being probed for helping DHS. On Tuesday, fights broke out between multiple people as a Turning Point USA event was being held at UC Berkeley. And apparently the Department of Justice is investigating this incident. This week, they were able to end the government shutdown, finally. But the government had to take measures prior to the reopening of government, and FAA had ordered airlines to cut 10% of their flights. Then on Wednesday, the U.S. president signed legislation ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The bill cleared the Senate earlier this week, ended the 43-day shutdown. The deal extends funding through January 30th, leaving the federal government on a path to add $1.8 trillion to the already $38 trillion in debt. Now, lest you think that Congress is done with their shenanigans, they fail at their job every year. The last time Congress completed all bills on time was 20 years ago in 1996. Instead of a functioning appropriations process, Congress has resorted to massive omnibus appropriations bill and continuing resolutions to carry over spending from the previous year. Unfortunately, I expect to see significant new shenanigans this week. So, as the Operation Southern Spear begins, the Epstein list is still being obscured, and we finally have a functioning government. I'm going to make a prediction this week, and sometime soon, you're going to see a vote for the Epstein client list to be released, or you're going to see calls for it. And about the same time, you're going to see some operations kick off in the Caribbean. That pretty quickly, that war will dominate the news cycle, and to try to distract everybody from Epstein's client list, which I personally think it's going to protect quite a few people, not just the U.S. president. I think there's going to be a significant number of people that are going to be. And mind you also that that's not the only thing that's going on. There are plenty of other very questionable activities in Washington, D.C. So this is just the latest. I hope that you guys are doing well, and hope that you are spending time with your families. It's important. Get out there, do it. Please be prepared. Get yourself ready. There are new challenges that will be arising in the very near future. And remember, the economic situation around the world is looking pretty ugly. I've got some other news from Europe earlier this week, and it's not looking good. And a lot of it has to relate to our families and how our families are doing. A lot of it also has to relate to our leaders and how they're doing or what they're doing, trouble they're causing. Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate the help and the effort. Please make some comments below also. If you like what I've shared, if you don't like what I've shared, go ahead. Let me know. I will also, like I said earlier, I will leave a link. So if you are interested in any of the books that I have written, please go on Amazon and order a book. If I can, of course, if I can get things going here in the near future, I will take the time and be able to have people order them from me, and I can actually make a little bit more money that way. But in the meantime, please follow the Amazon link. Again, everybody, appreciate you being here, being with me. Look forward to talking to you guys again very soon. Like I said, please like, share, and subscribe. Jeff Rains, Foundation of Civilization. Thanks. Talk to you all again